Hey, this is Matthew with Retro Edge Tech, and I've got some hardware I'd like to show you today. There's the Loadmaster 2200, and I acquired two of these in recycling. I got them in recycling as part of the business work that I do. I guess I'll try to set this down now. It's kind of heavy to hang on to. All right. So yeah, I got two of those, and they're really interesting because they're an older piece of hardware that's a network appliance, and so I'm going to share some of my digging process and how I figured out what was what. And I've got Alpine, the Alpine homepage up behind me just because I wanted to share that this kind of stuff is a great use case for Alpine Linux. It originally came with Linux. It came with this little Transcend 44-pin IDE flash module, which is a whopping 512 megabytes. So on this, it was the version of Linux that was customized by the manufacturer of that Loadmaster 2200. And when you started it up, it would boot Linux from this little thing. I pulled this out after testing it and stuck in a compact flash card because there's a compact flash slot on that as well. And was able to, I had loaded the live boot of Alpine Linux 32-bit edition onto that. And that's one of the things that I wanted to show you here about Alpine is because there are, this is the one here, the x86 one, that's the 32-bit. And if you get x86 64-bit, that's the 64-bit. So I had loaded this one up on the compact flash card, stuck it in there, turned it on, and it booted right up to the Alpine live boot. So that's pretty cool. In my digging process, here is the manufacturer Kemp and their Loadmaster. Here's their kind of sales sheet about it, and it looks like it's pretty impressive performance as part of what can throughputs. There's the 4 gigabyte Ethernet or gigabit Ethernet ports on the front, so lots of network throughput, and it kind of boasts about how much you can put through it. Its purpose is a load balancer. So if you've got lots of servers, it can, I guess, spread out that load. I'm not exactly sure how that works as far as the details. And it's obviously a product that Kemp, the manufacturer, was able to sell for quite a bit of money. It was useful for a particular time. I'm not sure if they're useful anymore, or if they have different types of technologies that are in place now. In any case, these machines, I got 2 of them, were recycled. But yeah, it says high performance, lots of throughput here. And the part that I found kind of funny, but well, as far as the performance, I don't know how to rate, but it says 1 million L4 concurrent connections. That sounds like a whole bunch to me, but I don't necessarily know how to compare that. But the funny part down here is it says Intel processor. And so I kind of went digging to figure out what that processor was. Of course, I could have popped it off as well and just looked at it. But on what I did is I searched. After I had opened it up, I searched for the model number of this board, which is interesting. This part here is the place that I plugged in the compact flash and booted up to Alpine. And this socket here, the IDE socket, you can see my mouse moving around there, is where this thing here was plugged in. So I was able to boot off of this. Also of interest is it's got SATA ports here and power connection, presumably to be able to power hard drive that's plugged in that'll sit in this spot. Here you see the heatsink off of the processor. And then it's got VGA out. I was able to plug it directly into a monitor and see what booted up to the screen. And then the USB ports are on the front. I was able to plug in a keyboard there. It's got one slot of DDR2 memory and currently has 1 GB in it now. I believe it can be upgraded to 2 GB. But the mystery is what processor is that? Because on their sales data sheet, they say Intel processor. After doing some digging, I'm pretty sure that it's a 1.8 gigahertz Celeron processor. It's 32-bit, because I found out the socket is a socket 478 CPU, and pretty much all of the processors that fit in that are 32-bit processors. It's got some Pentium 4, but I'm pretty sure it's a Celeron 1.8 gigahertz processor, which is not that impressive. So especially probably at the, they were probably selling these well after 32-bit Intel processors were anything to brag about. So instead of saying exactly what was in there, they just said Intel processor. Of course, for my purposes of experimenting with hardware, and I think this will actually still give great performance for a lot of applications that you'd want to run today. I'm going to test it out, but I think something like NextCloud server, which is, decently resource intensive, it's a full PHP application with a bunch of JavaScript and storing a bunch of things and runs a bunch of things in the background. But I'm pretty confident that NextCloud will run decently well on that. So that's something that I like to try out. There's a number of other applications that might be fun to try out. And, it's not that big. It's this 1U rack mount thing. I don't think it takes that much power. Though the fan that's on top of the heatsink, this thing right here, is pretty loud. So if I actually want to use this in my environment, I probably will figure out how to replace that fan with a quieter fan. But this is a fun piece of hardware. It's unusual. It's essentially a network appliance. But on the other hand, it has a regular VGA output, USB ports to plug in keyboard and mouse even, and an Intel 32-bit processor and a regular desktop stick of memory. So a little bit of an odd find. And I guess I could try to take this to the max. Maybe I could put a Pentium 4 3.2 gigahertz processor in there. I don't think that would make much of, I don't know if it would make much of a difference in the performance of, say, a NextCloud server to have a faster processor. I've got 2 of them, so I suppose I could keep one stock and upgrade the processor on the other one and compare performance. So, and it does have a riser card. Here is where the PCI riser, and then there's a slot on the back where you actually can put PCI. So not PCI Express, PCI, so the earlier version. So it's likely that you could even put, say, a PCI video card in there and get sort of decent performance out of a rack mount network appliance. I don't think I'll do that. But that expansion slot is there to put something in and might be useful. So anyway, it's pieces of hardware like this that are kind of fun to find and make great use cases for Alpine Linux. I hope to play around with this in the future. I'm not sure if I'm going to have a whole lot of time just in my work. I've been swamped with requests for computer repair. I'm very booked with that, so I'm doing a lot of computer repair, broken stuff. Of course, I use Linux as part of my tool set to repair Windows computers. Most of my customers have Windows computers. I use Clonezilla a lot. And then I do live boot to, say, a version of Linux that has the GNOME disks utility so that I can check the smart status and other attributes about the hard drive to see if the hard drive is okay. I use Clonezilla to make copies of, right now I'm doing a Clonezilla where I'm rescuing somebody's hard drive where the motherboard's bad, so I pulled the hard drive out, put it in a different computer, and then I'm using Clonezilla to copy and make an image of it, and then I'm going to restore that image to another computer that I have. So that's an example of how I would use Clonezilla. I also use Clonezilla to make images of computers that I sell as well, both for Linux and Windows. Of course, most of the computers that I sell to my local customers have Windows on, but I do sell some computers with Linux as well. But I make images of exactly the configuration that I want, the programs that I want installed, the updates that are done, drivers for particular machines, etc. are all saved on a Clonezilla image. And then when I want to prep another one for sale, I pull that computer out, boot up to Clonezilla, and then clone that image back onto that PC. And then it's much, much quicker to then get that ready to sell. So those are some examples of how I use Linux in my work. But I also, as part of my work, accept electronics recycling and come across fun things like this Loadmaster 2200. So hope I have some time to play with it. If I do anything interesting with it, I will share it. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.